How you doing, guys? I'm Fernando Juncadella. That's Landon, Watnick. We're here right next to the indoor practice facility where the Gators wrapped up week 2 of the spring football practice schedule. And Landon, how did the Gators progress this week?
It was a busy week for this Florida football team who had practices Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesday was actually the first practice in full pads for this group, and kind of surprising. I mean, some coaches and players were saying that this group kind of took a step back in that Wednesday practice, didn't really take ownership, and didn't really show some of the things that McElwain was looking for. But after that point, I mean, group really came out Friday, took that ownership, and really had a good practice, took a step forward after taking a step back Wednesday, according to Florida offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier, who met with the media from his takes. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if Florida, could bring that intensity on a consistent basis moving forward in these spring practices.
Let's look at the tape from this week. So Landon, Thomas Holly has gotten a lot of attention this spring because of his weight loss. By moving to defensive end, what are the possibilities for him and this defense?
Holly's weight transformation has really been a pretty remarkable story, probably one of the most remarkable ones this spring. I mean, you're talking about a guy who last fall came in at about 6'3", 320 pounds, has lost about 60 pounds since. I mean, he's now weighing at 260. I mean, you could just tell just by his body type, I mean, total transformation there. I mean, he's got a pretty chiseled frame now. So, I mean, he could really do some damage if he could avoid those hip issues that have kind of plagued him up to this point in his career. I mean, talking about his first 2 years, the first year he had the red shirt because he had surgery for that hip issue, and then the next year as a redshirt freshman was sidelined for more than a month with hip issues. So now UF has him playing at a strong side defensive end, and I mean, he's got the right burst and athleticism for that position. If he could, just work on his technique a little bit and kind of hone up on that end, I mean, he could really make an impact for this Florida defense.
Staying on the defensive line, CeCe Jefferson has got a lot of time at practice at the interior lineman position. Can we see him replacing John Bullard?
Well, it's actually interesting you mentioned that. I mean, McElwain said Friday during his press conference that they're going to rely a lot on CeCe Jefferson to replace Bullard's production from last year. I mean, Bullard's role, he was a versatile guy along that defensive line, playing defensive tackle as a 3 technique, and then playing some defensive end as well on the strong side. So CeCe's going to have to fill that role. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see if he's playing more inside or at defensive end where he really thrived as a true freshman. But for sure, I mean, CeCe has that versatility, and it's going to be really, really worth following if he could, just add some, extra pass rush and burst, in the interior.
As for the offensive side of the ball, how did the quarterbacks look in week 2?
Well, they've had their ups and downs. I mean, so far, Luke Del Rio has kind of separated himself from the pack. I mean, he's the most familiar with the system, is the most comfortable in the offense. But during some of the routes on air drills that the media have had to see, I mean, he did have a couple issues with ball placement and maybe overthrowing a few receivers. But just compared to the rest of the pack, he still is the most knowledgeable of the offense and definitely has the best feel. I mean, the freshman quarterbacks are kind of coming along. I mean, Felipe Franks is showing a little more polish than in his first week on the job. And then Kyle Trask is having his ups and downs as well. I mean, in Friday's drill, half-line drills and whatnot, I mean, he was struggling with snap exchanges with the centers, kind of having some issues with timing there under center. So, I mean, those two obviously have a lot to learn, but, I mean, really just an up-and-down week overall for the quarterback position, I would say.
Freddie Swain, Josh Hammond, Dre Massey, all guys that came this spring to start off for the Florida Gators. They seem to be making their way up in the depth chart with Callaway and Powell being out this spring. What have you seen out of them?
Well, as practice have progressed, Florida has given them more and more opportunities. I mean, Friday, Dre Massey was with the first-team offense during fastball, and Josh Hammond and Freddie Swain were with the second unit. So, I mean, those guys are getting way, way more involved. I mean, Freddie Swain, you got a smooth, crisp route runner who's shown some really nice things during drills. Josh Hammond has also been pretty solid as well. He's got some really sure hands, knows when to go up for the ball, has made a lot of plays in practice. And, I mean, obviously, Massey's speed and burst for a guy who's 5'9" is really, really interesting to watch. I mean, he could really be a threat in the slot there. So, I mean, all 3 of those guys have really made an impact thus far. And, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to kind of see their roles increase in practice moving forward.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoy the second edition of our weekly video recaps of the spring football schedule. That's Landon Watnick. I'm Fernando Juncadella. Be sure to subscribe to InsideTheGators.com and have a good one.